Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching this edition of The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. And now it's time for our first topic of discussion for today. And we're going to be talking about a project sponsored by the Ministry of Water Resources called Water. Most of the Arab countries and the region are suffering from water scarcity and many challenges facing this sector, and we're going to be talking about in depth about this project sponsored by the ministry. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Tahani Slate, and she's the General Manager of the Nile Water Sector, the Ministry of Water Resources. First of all, good morning, Doctor, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Well, let's start by talking about Water. Tell us more about the project and the aim of the project.
Very good. Okay, well, the project is a project funded by SIDA, which is the Swedish International Development Agency. It's implemented by the Regional Environmental Center, which is a regional center focused on environment in Eastern Europe and Eastern Europe, and their first time to work with the MENA region. This project is also in coordination, is done in coordination with the ministries of water resources in some of the MENA countries, namely Egypt, Tunisia, and Jordan. It's a project that has two components. Actually, Egypt joined later because it started in 2014, in April 2014, and it's ending in April 2017. We joined a little bit late this project. The project has two components. A component is called water security, and the other one is called water port. Water port stands for water resources management, good practices, and knowledge transfer. Actually, Egypt is working in a water port project only, or component. This component is focused on capacity building countries, the capacity building in water resources management, of course, and in adaptation to climate change as well, because these are the main problems or the main challenges that are facing the MENA region.
Doctor, there's been some workshops that were held by the ministry in regards to this project. If you can tell us more about the aim of this workshop and where do you stand now?
Yes. Well, this workshop has started from the 22nd to the 24th of November here in Cairo. It was a regional workshop. We were about more than 100 water professionals from Jordan, from Tunisia, from Egypt, and from Morocco and Lebanon as well. Although they are not part of the project, but they have participated in this workshop. This workshop was on data processing and exchange to build the capacity of the water professionals. Of course, there was also many stakeholders, like, for example, NGOs and international firms as well. It was about exchanging information regarding data processing and exchange in the MENA countries, and also to acquire some knowledge and some experience from other countries like Spain, for example, and the United States, because there is a consultant which is called Cimera. It's a consultancy firm in Spain, which have also delivered some presentations. Resources have participated with 5 presentations. These presentations coming from many sectors of the ministry. We had also from Research Institute, we had the Telemetry Central Department had a presentation to show in the field of exchanging the information regarding data processing and exchange. Also the Nile Forecast Center in the ministry. The Nile Water Sector had also a presentation regarding the data processing and exchange with the Nile Basin countries. And two institutes, the ECRI, which is the Environmental and Climate Change Research Institute. It's one of the institutes in the Ministry of Water, in the following the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, and also the Coastal Research Institute. So these presentations from the Egyptian side, some presentations were coming from the governments of the other regions as well, in order to make a state-of-the-art of this data processing and exchange matter in the MENA region.
But what about the recommendation? I mean, after talking and discussing all this from different points of view, what about the recommendations or the outcome of the workshop?
Well, the recommendations were very clear, actually. We all need more standardization of the process of data processing and exchange. Because even in one country, in the country itself, we sometimes have many duplications, and some data are not processed and are not even collected in the standard, international standards. So there is a need for capacity building. There's a need for standardization of data.
How are we going to do this? What are the recommendations?
Well, with more practices like this event, of course, and training courses. This is from one part. Also, we need to make the data exchange in the MENA region. But first, we have to start in the countries themselves, because if you, for example, you try to find some information regarding water for Egypt or for any other country, you find that on the World Bank website, some data that are different from the FAO website, for example. So this non-harmonization of data, it doesn't happen in the developed world. In the developed countries, when you Google information regarding water resources, you find the same figure in all the websites, for example. So this is something that we need to work on. Internal coordination in order to avoid duplication, because the duplication is the duplication of effort and also duplication of resources, because every project, if it's working on the same, like the other that's behind, we have to face that in the MENA region, somehow we work in isolated islands.
Doctor, if you can, just for our viewers who are not coming from a water professional background, if you can elaborate on what you mean exactly by capacity building.
Well, capacity building is learning. Learning from our experience, how to enhance the product that you are delivering, and also to learn from other experience. So have to lessons learned from other countries or other institutions that have a more advanced technology or a more advanced knowledge about the matter that you are tackling, whatever the matter is. Yes. So, of course, having the experience from other countries, especially this region in Europe, because usually when you deliver capacities to others, you tailor them your own way. So this is what you're doing in this type of project. They are tailoring. They are trying, for example, in the workshop, they have presented also a draft protocol for data processing and exchange, and it has to be reviewed by us, by the member countries, in order to customize it to our needs. Exactly. So this sort of projects, in capacity building, we don't have lack of capacities. It means that we don't have lack of technology, for example. But the human capacity is always needed for improvement. And also to know, to be opened with the other cultures and the other knowledges and information that are outside our borders.
So do you believe that we have an information dissemination problem here in Egypt? Or a challenge, let's say, not a problem?
No, problem is a big word. It's not a problem. But the thing is that we need more coordination, of course. You know, the information flow. In many developed countries, you find that there is a flow chart, where the info is going from this institution to that institution, and a single source. Yes, there is a cycle, and there is a single source of information for every information, even if you have many sources of information. But in this matter, you have to ask this entity, for example, which happens let's say for the water quality. In Egypt, we have the Water Resources Ministry is responsible for water quality. The Health Ministry, Ministry of Health, is responsible for water quality. The Ministry of Housing is responsible for water quality, and the Ministry of Environment is responsible.
So 4 ministries are
All
involved.
these are collecting data and information. And all these, each entity has its own parameters and has its own measures. So when you come and you want to hit the info, you want to see what are the water quality standards, and what are all the water quality features of in Egypt, you will find many data from many resources, and you don't know which one you will be reliable and which one you will build upon. So this is a problem for researchers.
So coordination.
Coordination is very important, and it's the main issue that we are suffering from, not only in Egypt, by the way, in the whole region.
So to follow with the recommendations or the out of this workshop, I mean, what is the next step? Because definitely we have challenges, as you mentioned. So how to overcome all these challenges?
Well, the next step regarding the project, there will be a protocol that will try to be followed by all the ministries involved. And also we have our own homework to do in each country to try to synchronize and to harmonize.
Who's going to be responsible for this? Talking about our homework, I mean.
About of course, in the ministry, the recommendations of these workshops are raised already in a report to the ministry, and we work upon, because it's very easy. You're only just need to make a loop, to make this flow of the information, which is already there, but with every department alone and not. This is what we miss. We have it, but we don't have it that strong. And also to transfer this info to other countries, you having a single source of information and a single figure for every parameter is very important in order to follow the standards of the international organization and the international standards.
Yes. Doctor, as you kindly noted during this workshop, several presentations were done, including this Spanish consultancy firm. What are the lessons to be learned from these consultancy firms? Is it the know-how? Are they way advanced than us? Do they have breakthroughs that we should follow? If you can tell us more about that.
Well, actually, they are more advanced, we have to admit it. They have better knowledge, and they have better also finance, because everything's focused about financing after all. You're working with your all abilities, and when the abilities are better and when the budgets are more,
funding is there,
you can find your way to enhance your work. So of course this was something, but it's also what was really noticed is how organized the things are, how organized, and this is what I was talking about, doing in the same loop. It's how you're organizing the flow of information. You're not repeating your work. You're making a roadmap when you start the collection of data, how you are harmonizing this data, how you take the outliers out of your information, how you are processing it, and how you are having a single entity responsible of delivering the information and exchanging this information with other countries and with other entities as well.
So if we were able to do all this, what about the benefits that Egypt will have?
Well, of course, to be fitting in the the international standards is one of the most important benefits, because this avoiding of duplication you save in money as well. This is it
time bound? I mean, we know that, for example, we have a time through which or during which you will be able to work and to manage all these challenges, or just we are going to work?
We don't have a certain commitment in time.
I mean,
the
definitely you
project
have an
has
objective out of the workshop,
yeah.
as you mentioned, and you have some challenges, and now you know the solutions for different points.
No time span have been decided in the workshop regarding the implementation of the recommendations, because it's every country has its own conditions and has its own priorities as well. Maybe it's a priority for
No,
Tunisia.
I mean in Egypt, as you are mentioning, what we have,
we didn't agree on a time
we can
span.
control in Egypt inside, because as you mentioned, for example, you have several entities or ministries that are responsible to different.
Yeah, but this is a lengthy process, you know. It's not a process that you can make in 1 or 2 months. You have to have your time to synchronize all of this. And we're not also starting from scratch. Some countries are way behind. We are advanced in our monitoring since early ages, since pharaonic times. We had nilometers there, and we have history in data collection and in data processing. It's not new. The thing is that you need some coordination, and this takes time because each institution is working, and it's only the link that's there. But we were not committed with the time span or time limit, actually, in the workshop.
Yes. Doctor, do you believe that the Ministry of Water Resources is allocating enough money to overcome this information gap, or to heal this information gap?
The ministry is a poor ministry. Let's be frank in
Admit
this.
that.
Let's be frank in this. We are not a very rich...
Even though it's very important, and the work of the ministry is very vital.
Of course, of course. But we are not a rich ministry. So we're working with what we have, which is really allocated in many areas. You know, controlling the water resources in Egypt is not an easy task.
Of course.
So yes, we need more funds. Of course, we rely on projects in many aspects, but at a certain point of time, you need also to be financed from the internal, from your budget, the local budget, in order to have sustainability and to continue, because every project has an end. And here is the main challenge. When a project ends, how to sustain, how to continue with the outcomes of this project, and without losing what you have acquired from the project. This is a main challenge that we are facing in the ministry, because sometimes the funds are finished and you need to continue.
What about the exchange of expertise? Also, as you mentioned this, as long as we have several countries participating, we're talking about expertise and also about training, as you mentioned right now, for Egyptians working in this project.
Yeah. Well, since the project is focused so far on capacity building, we had many participants, and by the way, they are focusing on young professionals, and this is what we really appreciate. They insist that we have young professionals in the events or in the trainings and workshops that are implemented within the project activities. They had in Tunisia, for example, they had 2 workshops or 2 trainings, one on integrated water resources management with regard to the water port component, and another one, integrated water resources management for climate change adaptation. They are also having this week study trip to Spain in the field of monitoring. We had this workshop, this regional workshop, which was the first, by the way, in Egypt, this regional workshop on data processing and exchange. Also, they have participated in 2 regional conferences for water growth and stability, one in Hungary and one in Tunisia. The project also have funded the participation of Egyptians in the World Water Week. We had a delegation funded by the project in the World Water Week in Sweden. And also in Marrakesh, they had a side event in which an Egyptian representative have been participated. So they are trying to encrust this is in the knowledge transfer and the of expertise. We're trying to have the international, they are providing international exposure to international events and to regional events in order to exchange the experts and the expertise.
Yes, and are we going to be represented in all these events that you have talked about?
Yeah, these are in the past. We are represented also in the future. We have
Yes.
also many other activities to come. And in Egypt specifically, but this is in didn't start it yet. We have also capacity building in flood risk management and in water resources management and in extreme events management.
Yes.
So these are also fields of experts that the expertise that we will tackle
Yes.
within the remaining lifetime of the project.
Yes. Doctor, as we're wrapping it up, anything that you'd like to add?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed very much this conversation.
Yes,
Have a good
Dr.
morning.
Tahani Sleet, the General Manager of the Nile Water Sector, Ministry of Water Resources. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And dear viewers, a short break and we'll be back to resume the remaining segments of the breakfast show. So stay locked up to Nile TV International.